Hi, welcome along to this special broadcast leading up to Cameroon's 2026 World Cup qualifier against Mauritius this Friday at 8 p.m. at the Japoma Stadium. There will be pre-match press conferences of the two teams as from 6 p.m. and training sessions as from 7 p.m. We will be here to show you all of that in this broadcast. And joining me on set for this is Junior Awasum, a sports consultant. It's a pleasure to have you, Junior.
Quite a pleasure, Daniel. Quite a pleasure to be here. Good afternoon and good evening to CRT Sport Entertainment viewers that are watching us across the country. What a game we have coming up, Mauritius against Cameroon. We evidently will be having some points today to take home for tomorrow's game. Yeah, tomorrow. We're looking forward to that match at 8 p.m. Cameroon versus Mauritius. The two teams are meeting for the first time since 2011. But practically, the road to Mexico, Canada, and the United States of America has begun for Africa. Actually, it's begun, and many pundits believe that Cameroon is well situated in a very good group. You know, out of their outings, Cameroon has won 4 of their last outing. You must assert that Cameroon has not played Mauritius since 2011. So what Mauritius are we going to see tomorrow? So that's the question that many CRT Sport Entertainment viewers and Cameroon Lions supporters are asking themselves. But I think tomorrow we're going to have ourselves a very good game. It's a very good pool, especially when we have Eswatini, Angola, Cape Verde, you know, Morocco, Libya, Mauritius, Libya. This is a group where the Lions have all their chances intact. And I think it's the very first time that, you know, Africa will be having 9 places at the World Cup. So it's a very, very interesting championship, I must say. With Daniel, I must add, a very last position, the 3rd best position in the group, you know. Africa has a lot of chances regarding this World Cup. Now, the question that many people are asking, having 9 places at the World Cup. I think we're going to come back to that. We do have Kazimi Mange, a football coach, as well as an expert in the game, joining us on set. Hello, Kazimi.
Merci. Bon après-midi à tous vos téléspectateurs. Bon après-midi à Junior. Merci de m'avoir convié encore à cette merveilleuse soirée.
Pre-match press conferences today. Rigobert Song facing the press with lots of changes, 6 changes. What are we expecting?
Oh ben écoutez, il est mieux placé pour nous expliquer pour quelles raisons il a fait les choix de ces 6. Certainement parce qu'il a un projet et que ces garçons, au regard du potentiel dont ils disposent, ils pourraient certainement l'aider à optimiser ce qu'ils recherchent.
So 4 meetings between Cameroon and Mauritius ever since the two sides started clashing, and Cameroon have won in all those encounters. This will be the 5th that tomorrow. So can the Lions have the same dominance like they've had over the Dodos over the years? Let's come back after this commercial break.
La route qui mène les Lions indomptables à la Coupe du Monde 2026 est ouverte. Le Cameroun affronte l'île Maurice ce vendredi 17 novembre au stade de Japoma Douala à 20h. Rigobert Song et ses hommes doivent sécuriser leurs 3 points. Allons les encourager en déboursant 2 000, 5 000, 10 000 et 25 000 francs CFA. Bière en vente dans les agences Orange Money de Douala soudanaise et Grand Mall. Hôtel Best Western, siège de la Ligue régionale FECAFOOT, parcours Vita Douala et au stade de Japoma. En plus, avec le pass FECAFOOT Guest, vous serez au stade en quelques minutes. Avec le soutien d'Orange Cameroun, les boissons du Cameroun, Tradex et OneIsBet. Match à vivre en direct sur la CRTV.
Yes, sir. It's done and already moving on. The 2026 World Cup qualifiers, Cameroon beginning the quest for a 9th World Cup participation. The first in 1982 in Spain, and the last in 2022 in Qatar. That was last year, with Cameroon finishing in the group stage of the competition. And just to let you know that for the pre-match press conferences, we're going to have Evariste Eyenga and Benin Buma Ghana to join us to report on that. We also have them report on the training sessions of the 2 teams with Coach Fidi Rasuna Naivo of Mauritius looking forward to breaking that jinx over Cameroon. Cameroon have dominated them in all 4 encounters with the last being in 2011, wherein the Indomitable Lions won 5-0 against the Dodos. That was during the 2012 Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers, wherein Cameroon did not make it to the final tournament. Now, guys, let's look at so many things here concerning the World Cup qualifiers. I mentioned that Cameroon looking for the 9th participation since debuting in 1982 in Spain. What kind of approach are we expecting from the Lions in the group of 6 teams? Let me just mention them. So you've got Angola, Cape Verde, Eswatini, Libya, Mauritius, and the host of tomorrow's game, Cameroon. So what kind of approach are we going to use? The Indomitable Lions with 6 teams in a group where only the winner picks up a direct qualification. I'm starting with you, Coach Mangi.
Mais écoutez, je crois que les forces sont égales. On peut simplement indiquer ici que beaucoup de nations ont fait des progrès. Il va falloir que le Cameroun fasse très attention. Il n'y a plus de petites nations. Il faudra aborder tous les matchs avec l'esprit d'être le meilleur sur le terrain. Donc, je crois que le moment n'est plus de parler des petites nations. Toutes ces nations se valent. Vous les avez citées. Il faudra faire très attention.
Yeah, because you look at the Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers for Ivory Coast next year. We had to struggle against Namibia, and we had to defeat Burundi 3-0 in order to book our spot, becoming one of the last nations to progress to the tournament proper. If you look at this group, Group D, you've got Eswatini, Mauritius, Libya. Well, Cape Verde, there was a time Cape Verde really held us from progressing to the finals of a tournament. But if you look at Eswatini, Libya, Mauritius, are they really going to pose a problem to the Indomitable Lions?
Yeah, many people might look at it as a problem. Are they going to measure up to the Indomitable Lions? Because if you look at all those teams, the most qualified teams here is the Indomitable Lions of Cameroon. The team with the most presence at the World Cup is the Indomitable Lions of Cameroon. The team with the most experience at the World Cup is the Indomitable Lions of Cameroon. So looking at all those facts, it shows that the team there to beat is the team of Cameroon. Now, what type of Lions are we going to see tomorrow? I definitely believe that in this poll, Rigobertson is going to try to make a statement tomorrow. And the biggest statement he's going to make tomorrow is probably by defeating 3-0. By enter the competition by beating Mauritius 3-0, making a very big statement. The counterpart of what I just said is the fact that out of their last 7 games, Cameroon has just won just 1. And statistically speaking, when you look at the coaching, the system that Rigobertson has been bringing, it's very difficult to be coherent or to be consistent. Why? The loss against Russia, evidently the loss again against Senegal. So all those aspects, you know, we now look at some of the opponents that we say, but this is a team that we can measure up to, we can beat them, we can play against them, despite the strong portfolio that Cameroon has. Coach Mangi was talking a few minutes ago about little teams, big teams. But the facet of football is not just changing in Africa, it's globally. That's why Rigobertson at the press conference asks, when people ask him, quelle est l'équipe type du Cameroun? He said, but c'est quoi l'équipe type? Basically saying that football has transformed into a science and into a logic in such a way that you have to have a pool of players that can measure up according to the opponent that you are confronting. Now, if you are confronting a team, like let's say Angola, that play Portuguese or Spanish, you know, or Latin style of football, what are the type of players that can measure up to that? If you're confronting a team like Mauritius, you know, that is more of an islander style of football, you know, more of a French style of football and more of an offensive, entertaining, agile football, what are the players that can correspond to that style of play? I think that's the logic that Rigobertson is looking at. And I'm looking at the selection that he has. It tells us that definitely he wants to get in there offensively, make a statement, have Cameroon, first of all, beat Mauritius Island very adamantly to make that statement in such a way that the other teams that are coming up, the other matches that are coming out.
Mauritius last game, competitive game, was in July, wherein they lost to Mozambique in the COSAFA Cup. That was 1-0. So what do we know more about the Dodos of Mauritius? Let's find out in this report by Larai Salamatu.
The players making their way to the pitch then. We're just minutes away then. It's Mauritius.
Classé 177e au ranking FIFA, l'île Maurice fait partie de ce qu'on peut appeler les petites nations de football. Son palmarès est vide, 0 phase finale de Coupe du Monde, L'île Maurice a disputé une seule phase finale de Coupe d'Afrique. C'était en 1974, sorti au premier tour. Et depuis, plus rien. Les dodos, comme on les surnomme, ne font pas le poids sur la scène continentale.
De bien le placer, c'est dedans. Kevin PATYCHOU, pour plus peut-être Maurice.
Quelques succès cependant au niveau zonal. Troisième de la Coupe de l'Océan Indien en 1981, la sélection de Maurice échoue lors du tour préliminaire de la CAN 2019 face aux Comores, composée pour la plupart des joueurs évoluant dans le championnat local. L'équipe entraînée par le coach malgache Fidi Rosa Naivo ne fera pas le poids face aux Lions indomptables ce vendredi. Attention tout de même, les coéquipiers du capitaine Lindsay Rose peuvent surprendre.
So Mauritius are still to get a taste of the FIFA World Cup. Can they get it this time around in Group D as they look forward to face Cameroun tomorrow? Meanwhile, the Indomitable Lions will be going in for the 9th World Cup participation, and that's where we make our next stop. When we look at the 24 players, the coach Rigobert Song has called 6 new faces, including 3 local players. One of them is Lionel Ateba of Dynamo of Douala. He's got 5 goals in 6 games for the club in the M10 Elite 1. Then, well, look at the goalkeeping compartment. You've got Andre Onana. Look at that attack line. Carl Toko Ekambi, no Vincent Abubakar, Coach Mange. But interestingly, Faris Pemi Mumbanya, he's got 18 goals with his club Bodo Glimt in Norway. Is there an air of confidence as we move forward to tomorrow's game?
Why not? Don't forget the young players, Mr. Gabi. Mm-hmm. Les deux, il faudra faire attention. Vous faites bien d'indiquer Fabrice Moubaya, qui est véritablement dans une spirale positive, j'allais dire inébranlable. Je crois que l'occasion lui sera offerte. Vous faites bien de parler de lui. L'occasion leur est offerte là pour entrer dans cette équipe nationale avec, je voulais dire, une baraka qui les installerait, parce qu'il faut déjà imaginer aussi que certainement après la CAN, Vincent et Eric vont libérer le plancher. Donc je crois que Fabrice et puis Macri ont du potentiel à Rigaud de voir comment les manager. Voyez-vous, le plus important, c'est comment les manager. Le plus important ne sera pas de marquer des buts, le plus important sera aussi de donner une prestation qui satisferait tout le monde. Je crois qu'il y a de la qualité pour les deux. L'absence de Vincent et de Eric Maxime Moting, je crois que c'est ces jeunes qui, vous l'avez indiqué, Moubaya qui est dans une spirale positive, vivement que demain, cela lui réussisse aussi en sélection nationale, parce qu'il faut le dire à nos téléspectateurs, généralement on peut être bien en club, mais en sélection, on est en difficulté. Il va falloir les manager pour qu'ils réalisent ce qu'ils réalisent en club. Ça passe par le discours et le style d'animation dans lequel on va les intégrer pour qu'ils s'épanouissent, et ça sera le bonheur de tout le monde.
At the time when we really need goals in that final third, having a striker like Faris Pemi Mumbanya, 15 goals in the Norwegian League, 18 in total this season for Bodo Glimt. Are we safe? Can we say this can be a natural striker?
You make him sound like a savior. You make him sound like a savior. You know, remember that in that attack line, you have a guy like Frank Magri, you have Mbemo, and then you have Kudu. Kudu also is on a very, very good shape in terms of performance on the attack line for his team. And he has very good statistics that aligns him. Now, listening to Coach Manga and yourself speak, evidently the one is, what about a trio? I would suggest, you know, to have Pemi, have Frank Magri, and Kudu to start.
You're writing of Carl Toko Ekambi.
Right. No,
you're writing of Clinton J. These are experienced players.
No.
In the squad.
You are facing a team like Mauritius Island that Cameroon has beaten. You understand? From the last 7 games of Cameroon, they've won just 1 game. And recently, they just lost to Russia. They lost again
to Senegal.
And if you coach Rigobert Song, you want to rejuvenate that team, give a little bit of light and hope. We're not saying that Carl Toko Ekambi is not capable. We're not saying that Mbemo is not capable. But from time to time, it's good to rotate, to conscientize those players of the stakes that they have at hand. Why not give a chance? I would definitely say, why not give a chance to a trio where you have Kudu, you have Frank Magri, and Pemi to start the game? Or you can have your regular team, and at halftime, if you feel that Cameroon is more secure in terms of the victory, you bring them in. Why am I saying this on the attack line? We need an attack line that is rejuvenated. Coach Mangi was just saying it a few minutes ago. After the African Nations Cup, we need a different attack line because most of the guys that have been there that are regular, evidently they'll be going to retirement. And some of them will not be apt anymore for the national team. So if you're Coach Rigobertson, what do? Evidently, you start preparing. You start preparing and you start basically giving the chance to those up-and-coming players that you believe that tomorrow will be the ones to make the national team. And for me, I don't see any reason, not to keep any guys on the bench that cannot perform. Hey, by the way, Daniel Conde, I'm not the only one saying it. Yeah. Remember the president of FECAFOOT said, if you don't play well, you don't merit your place. He said, c'est la chance garder de personne. So I want to stay in that same line. And I definitely want to see an attack line that can definitely make something happen. Now, before Coach Mange intervene, in the midfield section, you have a masterminder like Zamboangisa. Okay, you have a guy like Elliott. Now you have Kemen. You have many other attackers, even Neyu. Even Neyu, that is a very, very good guy. I would definitely say that Cameroon should put up a very good offensive system because if you look at our national team right now, I can tell you that at the defense, we are good. At the defense, you have guys like Christopher Wu, you have Tolo, you have Castelletto, you have Gonzalez. You have guys that can basically handle the defense. Where the problem is going to come from is how we correlate the midfield and connect with the attack that can concretize goals. Bon, I'm happy that Coach Mangi agree with me.
Yes, Coach.
Ce qui est également clair, ce qu'il faut dire à nos téléspectateurs, c'est qu'il y a souvent un problème d'intégration. Généralement, quand vous avez des joueurs qui viennent d'arriver, vous pouvez être un peu obligé de les préserver pour qu'ils s'imprègnent en regardant. Certainement, quand ils vont entrer, ils auront une autre façon d'appréhender. Donc, ces garçons, on ne perdra pas à les mettre sur le banc pour regarder et les sortir, les faire entrer les trois. Ça veut dire qu'on peut faire entrer d'abord ceux qui ont l'habitude, parce qu'il faut aussi d'abord stabiliser, c'est-à-dire Brian Mbomo à droite, Karl Toko et Kambi à gauche, avec éventuellement un qui peut commencer, c'est-à-dire Magri, qui lui est déjà habitué au groupe, parce que Magri doit être à sa 3e sélection. Maintenant, en deuxième mi-temps, comme le disait Junior, on peut maintenant faire entrer le jeune Mumbaya, qui a déjà bien compris, étant au banc de touche, il a causé, il a vu, il a regardé même l'adversaire, il sait ce qu'il parlait faire, le jeune Koudou, et puis tout de suite, pourquoi pas le jeune Elliott? Parce que pour la ligne d'attaque, c'est clair, tous ces garçons sont capables de faire la différence, mais comme je peux vous indiquer ici que s'il y avait un choix à faire entre la Coupe d'Afrique des Nations et le mondial, je crois que tout le monde serait d'accord pour qu'on soit qualifié pour le mondial. Il faut donc d'abord préserver les acquis. Au milieu du terrain, je pense que Junior l'a dit, il y a de la qualité. Vous avez Olivier Ncham, vous avez Frank Zamboangisa et vous avez le jeune Neou Elliott. L'un des deux peut entrer avec ces deux anciens, c'est-à-dire Frank Zamboangisa et puis Olivier Ncham. Maintenant, en défense, Junior Awas le disait, il y a beaucoup de certitudes là-bas. Je crois que je ne peux même pas les citer, mais tous ceux qui ont été retenus peuvent. Mais comme il faut toujours d'abord avoir une stabilité, nous, Tolo et Darlene Yongwa sont déjà dans la maison. Mais Darlene, lui, il a quelque chose, c'est qu'il est un peu plus offensif. Et quand on veut gagner un match, lui, par exemple, il peut commencer. Ça peut être la première révélation dans la ligne défensive de demain. Donc, Darlene Yongwa, Christophe Wu, Gonzalez, et puis Jean-Charles Castelletto. Ça peut déjà être les 4 qui pourraient commencer naturellement dans les buts. André Onana, certainement, c'est la grosse certitude.
Thank you so much, Kazmi Amange. If you're just joining us on CR2 Sports and Entertainment, this is a live broadcast concerning the pre-match press conferences of Cameroon and Mauritius. That's in their game tomorrow in the 2026 World Cup qualifiers. We're expecting the first presser as from 6 p.m. Meanwhile, we told you about the road to the World Cup that's in Mexico, Canada, and the United States of America that has begun. It actually started yesterday with Equatorial Guinea picking up a win in their group against Namibia 1-0. They won. Rwanda and Zimbabwe separated goalless. The Democratic Republic of Congo defeated Mauritania. That's 2-0. Ethiopia and Sierra Leone are separated goalless. Meanwhile, today Burundi just picked up a 3-2 win against the Gambia, who were in the Africa Cup of Nations here in Cameroon. That's an interesting one. Mozambique defeated Botswana. That's 3-2. Meanwhile, at the moment, Nigeria, who weren't in the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, are slugged it out at home against Lesotho. At the moment, it is a goalless. Sudan versus Togo is still ongoing. It is a 1-1 draw at the moment. Meanwhile, Kenya are surprisingly beating Gabon. That's a 1-0. Algeria are taking on Somalia, and they're leading 2-0. The same scoreline for Egypt against Djibouti. Cameroon versus Mauritius is tomorrow as from 8 p.m. at the Douala Japoma Stadium. And we are looking forward to having correspondents at Douala, that's at the Douala Japoma Stadium, that's Ivari Senga and Benin Bumagana to lead us to the first press conference of the two teams. Now, guys, before we connect with our correspondents there, what do you think is going to be the actual talking point of Coach Rigobert Song à Bahanak? We can now see our correspondents.
Derrière nous, l'arrivée à cette estrade donc des deux premiers conférenciers. Il s'agit des visiteurs. En prélude au match Cameroun-Maurice prévu demain à 20h ici. C'est le visiteur évidemment qui passera donc le premier donc attendu ici, le sélectionneur de l'équipe de l'île de Maurice, suivi d'un de ses joueurs. C'est l'ouverture des deux conférences de presse, puisqu'après celle de l'île Maurice, il s'agira de celle du Cameroun, prévue à 18h30, donc dans quelques instants seulement. D'abord, la scène, elle sera offerte, le stade sera offert à l'île Maurice.
Exactly, like Evaris already said it, we are going to have Fidi Raswanaivo, coach of the Mauritius, who has a great ambition and his objectives are clear. He dreams of taking the team to at least an African Cup of Nations. We're not talking about an African Cup of Nations. We are as far as the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers are concerned. But that is his big dream. And so he hopes that the first match, one against Cameroon and then against Angola, will give him a good focus and a good drive far ahead. So in the next few minutes, he will be talking about his strategy. He has summed up and brought in most of them local players, except for very, very few, about 2 or 3 of them. We are yet to know his lineup, but most of them are local players. He's going to tell us how he hopes to come against the Indomitable Lions. They've met 3 times, I should say, 3-4 times. I should say, and Cameroon have beaten them in all the 4 meetings. So this time he's meeting Cameroon for the 5th time, and it is a desperate effort to be able to overturn the Cameroonian domination. Today, he's going to be able to answer questions to these many journalists who are right here, so that he can be able to convince, if at all he can succeed to, or let them know what he plans for the game tomorrow, Friday.
Les techniciens de la presse sont mobilisés ici en nombre important évidemment, environ une centaine, hommes de médias, toutes disciplines techniques confondues ici, attendu donc l'entrée en scène donc du sélectionneur de l'île Maurice. Certainement, il y a des questions qui brûlent déjà à la gorge de certains. Par exemple, ce Cameroun qui à chaque fois a le dessus sur l'île Maurice. Est-ce que cette fois-ci, l'île Maurice aurait peut-être la possibilité de renverser la tendance? 4 confrontations, toutes à l'avantage du Cameroun et par des larges scores, parfois de 5-0 avec des doublés des Camerounais. Est-ce que cette fois-ci, l'île Maurice aurait trouvé donc la petite équation pour enfin peut-être prendre la main au Cameroun? On peut imaginer ce type de questions. Et maintenant, Benin Bumagana l'indiquait tantôt avec... ce type de questions. Et maintenant, Benin Bumagana l'indiquait tantôt avec toute une sélection qui arrive composée pour l'essentiel de joueurs locaux. Comment on ferait face à la grosse batterie des Lions indomptables qui alignent de plus en plus de professionnels, de joueurs évoluant à l'étranger, à l'exception de 3 uniquement. Autant de questions attendues ici dans quelques instants.
As a matter of fact, the Mauritius, their football prowess is nothing compared to that of Cameroon. They've been to the African Nations Cup just once. That was in 1974, before the country and the football team started their decline, and there's been nothing to be able to stem that decline. So they are hoping that with all of these matches, they can be good. They'll be able to go up. But there's also been a situation in the Mauritius where they have kept changing their coaches, you know, like changing Kleenex or changing the tissue paper that you're using. Even right up to this moment, Fidi is still not too convinced, because now he has about 2 matches to show the Mauritians that he can handle the job. So even at this moment, he is playing on he has this bitter pill beneath his tongue to swallow, because if he misses this match and then misses the next one, his head may be going down for it for lack of results.
On en est donc à quelques instants. La police, pour encadrer, pour mettre de la discipline à cet échange avec la presse, vient d'être délivré ici. Donc, dans quelques instants, donc, est attendu ici le sélectionneur de l'équipe nationale de l'île Maurice, qui sera accompagné d'un de ses poulains, évidemment. On se retrouvera juste après pour un bref débriefing et une projection avant la conférence de presse, celle du Cameroun, qui, elle, est attendue, en tout cas programmée à 18h30. À vous.
Many thanks, Evariste Eyenga and Benin Buma Ghana for the updates concerning the pre-match press conferences of Cameroon and Mauritius, as the two teams meet tomorrow in their first ever engagement in the road to the 2026 World Cup that will take place in the United States of America, Mexico and Canada. So 12 years down the line, the two teams are meeting. Guys did well to mention the last meeting of Cameroon versus Mauritius. It was during the 2012 Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers in 2011. Cameroon winning the 5-0, and the current president of the Cameroon Football Federation, Samuel Eto'o, scoring in the rout. Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting scoring the last goal. But what has really changed, Kazimi Mange, Mauritius, little known in African football. They've been to the Africa Cup of Nations just once, and not in the 2000s. So it's quite a tricky one to write off them. We don't know what has changed in the last 12 years.
Dani, il faut vite oublier le passé. Il faut vite oublier tout ce qui s'est produit avant. Les jours se sont écoulés, beaucoup de choses ont changé. Et c'est ce passé qu'il faut justement vite oublier pour être beaucoup plus performant devant cette équipe. Il faut ignorer tout le passé où on marquait 5 buts, 3 buts, on est presque à 13 buts marqués, un seul but concédé. Il faut vite oublier ça, parce que c'est une autre nouvelle équipe de l'île Maurice. Et ils ont un garçon comme Nazira, qui est quand même à une moyenne de 10 buts marqués. Il faudra faire très attention. Or, avant, il n'y était pas. Donc, c'est une équipe qui a des révélations. Moi, je voudrais indiquer ici que c'est le moment ou jamais de les prendre très au sérieux. D'ailleurs, ils ne sont pas arrivés là par élection. S'ils sont là, c'est parce qu'ils se sont qualifiés dans les tours précédents. Donc, c'est une équipe, par rapport à votre préoccupation, il faut tout de suite oublier le passé et se mettre focus sur le match de demain, à savoir mettre une équipe redoutable, une équipe qui devra marquer d'ailleurs plus que les buts pour faire la différence.
Awasu, is it something we're just going to dive in and say, we're going to trash these people 3-0, or we are going to be very, very cautious in our approach?
I mean, evidently being cautious does not guarantee, either you're going to win or lose. There are 3 aspects in football. Some the aspects in football that I know, there are 3 of them. When you go into a football game, it's either you win, you draw, or you lose. Yes. Those are the 3 aspects of football. Now, if you look at the Cameroon national team, like I said, out of 7 games, they've won just 1. Dugobert Song would like to renew a victory against this match against Mauritius. And these are teams that they know very well. You just said it a few minutes ago, President Samuel Eto'o actually just scored against them, Choupo-Moting. But now it's a different dynamics. I think that's what Coach Mange was trying to say. It's a different dynamic, it's a different team. You have guys like Adel Lange, that's a very, very good a very, very good player for Mauritius. He can carry that team. You have Ashin Azira, that is tantamount to scoring 10 goals. Out of 27 games played, statistics-wise, he has scored 10 goals. It tells you that they do have some elements, that can answer. But are those elements going to be enough to confront the powerhouse that is Cameroon? And more to that fact, when you look on paper, you know, out of the 6 teams in that pool, I don't think there is any of them that matches Cameroon. So coming to confront Cameroon, if you're the coach of the Mauritius Island, you want to limit the damage. You know, you want to limit the damage because evidently, when you lose to Cameroon, maybe 3 or 4 goals to 0, it's going to play on you when you confront teams like Angola, Cape Verde. You know, I'm not going to say Eswatini, but I'm looking at teams that evidently are potentially could be contenders in that group. And one of them that I'm sure that is a slow maker and it's a slow killer is probably Angola and Cape Verde.
Yeah, you heard Benin talking about the coach of Mauritius, Fidi, saying that his greatest achievement will be to qualify Mauritius for an Africa Cup of Nations tournament. They are not in Ivory Coast next year. Out of the 24 nations that have qualified for the Africa Cup of Nations, they are not there.
Yeah.
Is it like saying, that we don't really care about qualifying for the World Cup? We don't think we're going to make it out of Group D, where we have Angola, Cape Verde, Cameroon, Eswatini, Libya, or it's some kind of
no, Daniel, on paper,
maybe a mind game that you're playing against Cameroon.
On paper, in that group, Cameroon is the best team. On paper, on that group, when we're talking
questioning Mauritius now a commitment here. What kind of commitment will they have in this group? Saying that
evidently, I would tell the Mauritian coach to stop with the nostalgia. You have a game tomorrow. There's no time to be nostalgic.
Because that's the past. This is the World Cup, and it's talking about the Africa Cup of Nations.
Daniel Konde, let me land on my point, please. I would say the Mauritian coach, please do away with the nostalgia. Face the reality. The reality is you are facing the Indomitable Lions of Cameroon, which by paper and even on statistics is the best team so far in that group. Now, if you're a coach that is serious, you're going to be nostalgic. I love the fact that Benin mentioned some of the aspirations that the coach has. And he also pointed out the fact that they don't have any stability in terms of their football development program because inconsistently, you know, they've been changing coaches, you know, and changing people that are coming. They're replacing coaches all the time. It's very difficult for a tactician or a technician to work with a group, you know, and don't have the time to really mold that group and mold a national team that can come out and do some damages. So, coming back to your question, it's a football game, like Coach Mange said. And I just mentioned it a few minutes ago that in football, there are 3 aspects. Either you win, you draw, or you lose. And you need to check, you need to have a reality check and know where you are. You're in Douala. You're facing the Indomitable Lions. There is no time to be nostalgic. You have to try, if I'm the coach of Mauritius Island, you have to do everything possible to limit the damage. Why limit the damage? Because this is not the only game you have. Playing against Cameroon is not the only game. You still have Eswatini, you still have Libya, you still have Angola, you still have Cape Verde. So against Cameroon at home, please, come on, let's be realistic.
All right, so Mauritius, their first ever and last Africa Cup of Nations was in 1974. That's in Egypt. So many, many years, decades ago, that they made their first and last Africa Cup of Nations tournament. And they've never been to the World Cup. Little known in Africa, facing Cameroon, who've won 5 Africa Cup of Nations titles, the last being in 2017. And they've been to the World Cup 8 times. The last participation was in 2022. Now, guys, we've talked a lot about this build-up, the 2 teams, profiling the 2 teams. But what will the 2 coaches be talking about? Starting with Rigobert Song Bahanak. We earlier mentioned that he's made 6 changes. 6 new faces are coming, including 3 local players called up at very short notice to replace players who are injured. Is this really going to be the main discussion after the in the press conference? Will that be the question? Like, tell us about the players that you've called, the local players. Tell us about Frank Atsama, Jean-Eric Moussou of Coton Sport, Lionel Ateba of Dynamo of Douala. Is it a topic about 6 new players coming into the Lions then going to dominate the pre-match press conference?
Mais écoutez, je crois que ça a toujours été le débat de tout le monde lorsque des nouveaux joueurs entrent, surtout les joueurs locaux. Mais ce qui est sûr, c'est 3 joueurs locaux qui sont retenus par Rigobert, les téléspectateurs le savent, c'est pour des raisons d'indisponibilité de certains joueurs qui avaient préalablement été retenus. Donc, un garçon comme Moussour, tout le monde le voit en championnat. Et nous sommes quand même à la 6e journée, presque peut-être même à la 7e. C'est un garçon dans le milieu du terrain du coton qui démontre qu'il a de la qualité. Il peut être plus impactant que le jeune Elliott en termes d'agressivité, en termes d'impact athlétique. Je crois que ça ne surprendrait personne qu'il soit là également à Tchama. Je crois que tout le monde regarde un peu son comportement en défense avec Bamboutos. C'est un garçon qui peut également beaucoup apporter. Il fallait pallier à ses absences. Et puis Ateba, Lionel Ateba, qui est l'un des meilleurs buteurs du championnat, donc ça ne surprendrait personne. On a regardé ce garçon dans tous ses matchs. Il a démontré qu'il avait quelque chose pour un attaquant. Lorsqu'il est dos au jeu, il est capable tout de suite de se retourner et de mettre en difficulté les défenseurs. Donc, pour moi, ces 3 joueurs ont été retenus justement parce qu'ils ont quand même une certaine influence dans leurs équipes de façon individuelle. Et maintenant, ça permet également à notre championnat de relever la tête. Voyez-vous, lorsqu'on appelle un garçon en sélection nationale d'un club du championnat local, quand il va rentrer en club, ça tire un peu le goût vers le haut. Donc, c'est sans surprise qu'ils ont été appelés, vivement qu'ils confirment cela dans le peu de temps qu'ils passeront avec les autres dans la tanière. Certainement, ils auraient gagné quelque chose, même s'ils n'arrivaient pas à faire le match, parce qu'il faut le dire quand même, la sélection nationale actuelle, les professionnels qui sont là, ils ont de la matière.
Yeah, fascinating the former coach Kazimi Mange, who will certainly be coming to the local players summoned by Rigobert Song for the Cameroon versus Mauritius game. But now let's look at other aspects or the global picture of it. In his press briefing releasing the list of 24 players, Song was asked a question that when is he going to have his first 11, a permanent 11, and he said he was building on that. But now, if you look at the 6 new players coming in, Vincent Abubakar is injured, Eric Maxime Choupo-Moting is absent.
Yeah.
Are we really going to have like that permanent team to say, tomorrow we can predict who is going to be in the central attacking role, who is going to be in the left wing position, right wing position, the midfield? It's quite difficult to wrap your head around it.
Daniel, I must really emphasize on one point. And I think Coach Rigobert was very adamant about that point. You know, football has changed.
Because
okay?
he's going to face a question on that in the pre-match press conference.
Even if he faces a question, it's not going to affect his game plan.
Yeah.
This is a guy that I've said it time again, that in your part équipe type, c'est quoi l'équipe type? Meaning that there's no typical team. Why is he saying that? Because strategically, football has evolved, you know, and that's why people are still living in the past in nostalgia. That's why he said about that. Why? Because football has evolved very strategically. I take example, a guy like Deschamps in France. Each time he convocates a team, you have 4 or 6 new players in the team. He's always rotating his bench. You might have some permanent players on the defense or 1 or 2 at the attack, but evidently he's always injecting new players. And when you look at that strategy in terms of having a pool of 40 players or 50 players that you can call up or that you can rotate and call them on permanent basis or on, you know, on permissible basis, it gives you more options to evolve as a coach. That is why, you know, calling up those 6 new players from the local Elite One Championship, I think it's a good thing. Because then now you have more options. And you have options where? On every compartment of the national team.
D'ailleurs, ils ne sont pas si nouveaux.
And by the way,
parce que Neu a déjà fait la sélection nationale, Magri a déjà fait la sélection nationale. Donc, pour moi, les nouveaux, vraiment les nouveaux, ce sont les 3 locaux. Et puis Mumbaya, qui est nouveau.
Coach Mange, ce n'est pas une question de nouveau, parce que c'est une question de stratégie.
And also, to get a permanent level.
Et je dis ceci,
coach.
Et je dis ceci, coach. L'équipe type, pour Hugo, j'aime l'optique là, parce que l'équipe type, nous sommes au quoi? Au 19e?
Non, l'équipe type, c'est pour les médias. L'équipe type, c'est généralement en fin de saison.
Non, et je dis encore,
ou bien en fin de compétition, ou bien en fin de...
J'aime l'aspect qui dit ceci, il n'y a pas d'équipe type. Il n'y a pas d'équipe type parce que nous vivons des moments de football qui ont beaucoup changé.
Peut-être que Daniel veut parler de l'ossature d'une équipe. Ça, c'est différent de l'équipe type.
But Daniel, you know, coming back to your question, the key thing that we should be asking ourselves, because the end result to all of this is a victory it's a draw or he loses. But I think Coach Robertson has the right options to have a pool of players where can give you options on every compartment of the national team. Be it at the defense, be at the midfield, be at the offense. So that at the end of the day,
goalkeepers
you
also
get the results that you need. The key point, Daniel, is to get that end result, get that victory.
So that Rigo have many possibilities.
Yeah.
Striker, midfield, defender. How many players who can play there? No problem.
Okay. All right, guys. So we're looking forward to that Cameroon versus Mauritius at 8 p.m. tomorrow at the Douala Japoma Stadium. And we've been talking about the new faces, three local players. Frank Atsama, who is replacing Harold Mukudi, is joining the Lions Den from Bambutus of Buda. He's a defender. Jean-Eric Moussou of Coton Sport is replacing Olivier Kemen, who
the
is
midfield.
Injured. That's in the midfield. While Lionel Ateba, who is a forward with Dinamo of Douala, is replacing Vincent Aboubakar in the attack line, who is also injured. But now, who is Lionel Ateba, who's got 5 goals in 6 M10 League One games for Dinamo of Douala this season. He formerly played for PWD of Bamenda. He scored 9 goals in all competitions for the Abakwa boys. That was in 2022. The following report is profiling Lionel Ateba. Rigobert Song's replacement for Vincent Aboubakar, Lionel Ateba, is not a new figure in Cameroonian football, despite making headlines on November 5 when he scored a solo goal to hand Dinamo Douala a 2-1 win against Canon Yaoundé. Ateba's mark can be traced from 2021. That year, Coton Sport brought him in to fill up the central forward vacuum left by Lambeng Arena when he parted for Moroccan club AS FAR. Ateba had already created an impact as a forward, having top scored for AS Etouameki, Yaoundé Foot and AS Fortuna. In August 2022, PWD Bamenda announced they had secured the services of the striker, who was 23 at that time, for a 2-year spell. Ateba helped PWD finish 4th in the M10 Elite One last season and played a vital role as they qualified for the final of the Cup of Cameroon, scoring 9 goals and assisting tries across all competitions. The 24-year-old is now in the colours of newly promoted side Dinamo.
Très technique, attention, avec ce ballon, la tentative! Qui d'autre que lui? Ateba!
In 6 games, he has netted 5 times, becoming the 3rd highest goal scorer after Boris Kacha of Bambutus and Jules Armand Ko of Les As.
Big news that Lionel Ateba is called up to replace Vincent Aboubakar. It already shows that the local championship can provide players for the national team. It's a progress and it's an encouragement for all the other players.
Ateba's stoppage time winner against Canon earlier this month has left many feeling he can be a solution to Song's final 3rd. But can he dig his heels in the World Cup qualifiers against Mauritius and Libya? Well, his last impression on TV, Lionel Ateba facing Canon Yaoundé with Dinamo of Douala. He scored the winner at the death with Dinamo winning 2-1 against Canon Yaoundé. When you look at that individual goal, 3 defenders, 1 attacker. He went through, breaking into the box, finding space, beating the goalkeeper. Superb.
3 defenders and 1 goalkeeper.
Yeah,
so that's 4.
4 opponents.
Yeah, yes. 3 defenders, 1 goalkeeper, 4 persons. Quand vous avez un garçon comme ça, qui vous réalise ce genre de gestes, c'est à vous de vous poser la question de savoir qu'est-ce qu'il n'a pas comme attaquant. Et si vous regardez bien le départ de cette action, il est aidé au jeu. C'est une profondeur où il s'impose d'abord par son aspect athlétique, physique. Il se débarrasse de 2 défenseurs et le 3e. Et même, il perd d'abord le contrôle du ballon. Mais comme on dit, un attaquant reste toujours un attaquant. Il a toujours le ballon, parfois le but le suit. Parce que quand vous regardez ce contrôle, il a perdu légèrement le contrôle du ballon, mais il reste encore sur ce ballon. Il fait une feinte de frappe qui met en déroute les défenseurs, ouvre parfaitement le plat du pied et utilise la surface de contact la plus indiquée, c'est-à-dire le plat du pied qui est bien pour la précision et bien pour la sécurité. Donc il a tout dans cette situation. Il a la palette d'un attaquant. Comment faire pour ne pas avoir de l'estime pour un garçon qui peut te marquer un but dans une situation où plusieurs aspects, il a été au-dessus. Donc, forcément, rien qu'à partir de cette action, il peut être retenu en sélection nationale. Et vous avez fait un reportage sur lui, vous vous rendez compte que partout là où il est passé, il a marqué des buts. C'est un des joueurs qui est constant dans toutes les équipes là où il est passé, dans Fortuna, dans Coton, dans PWG de Bamenda et enfin dans Dynamo. Il ne cesse de réaliser son rêve, c'est-à-dire marquer des buts. Donc je pense que c'est bénéfique pour le football local, parce qu'à partir de lui, d'autres jeunes peuvent dire, si on a pris Lionel à l'équipe nationale, pourquoi pas Rigo, moi demain aussi.
Now, Lionel Ateba, out of the 3 local players summoned, if one were to get a chance tomorrow, will that be Lionel Ateba?
You know, to listen, basically I'm listening to you and Coach Mange. You guys remind me of Jérôme Gomme, coming from Colombia.
Yes.
And we saw the performances that he made.
The impact in the World Cup.
Exactly, the impact of the World Cup. But you know
assisting
that...
Vincent Abubakar in the goal against Brazil.
Evidently, evidently, why am I bringing this up? Because it's not every player that can have that same impact or that can get in and evidently produce and be that productive for a coach. But I think it's a nice test. I think Lionel Ateba still has a lot of work to be done. It's too early to start, prognosticating, saying that, no. I think we've got a point in our national team, we've got a level where we need to work extremely hard on our local football to produce some of the players. The fact that Rigobertson selected some of these players is already a good indication to show that if you work hard, you have a chance to be called up.
Why not?
But one of the things that I would really like to see happen in our football is that players should not be called directly into the national team. I would like them to see pass maybe through every level, like the under-23, under-24, then you make it to the national team. It makes it more serious, when you go through those steps to get to the national team. Now, another thing that I'm really afraid when I hear this type of comment or stuff like that is the fact that whenever we have a local player producing in our local championship, Elite One, before you know it, they're playing professional. And they're playing professional where? In clubs that, you will not even imagine, So we need to groom our players, develop them, give them a lot of work. Don't throw so much roses so early. It's too early to start pronouncing on the aspiration, on the aspect. This is a young attacker that has a lot of work to do and has a lot to show for before he can even be called up to the national team. I think it's a pat on the back. I think his selection by Rigobertson is just a pat in the back to say, keep walking in that direction.
Et en plus, Junior, ce garçon à Douala, par exemple, demain, c'est sur son terrain. Il pourrait jouer 20 minutes parce que c'est sur son terrain. Et autre chose, je ne pense pas que les joueurs de l'île Maurice, à qui j'ai beaucoup de respect, ne sont pas aussi en dessous en termes de qualité. Voyez-vous. Donc, si en face, c'est-à-dire à l'île Maurice, il y a des joueurs dont le niveau est relativement bas à Lionel, pourquoi ne pas le faire jouer? Ça dépendra des Rigo. Et c'est toujours important de prendre un garçon comme ça qui est dans une spirale positive, en profiter parce que c'est son temps fort là, comme on dit souvent. C'est son moment. Et pourquoi pas encore devant son public à Douala qui vous dit que s'il a 30 minutes, il ne ferait pas la même chose qu'il a fait avec PWG, la même chose qu'il fait avec Dynamo, la même chose qu'il a fait avec Fortuna. Donc, je pense qu'on ne perd rien davantage à appeler. On aurait même eu 5 locaux dans cette sélection face à l'île Maurice, mais que ça n'aurait gêné personne.
Mangue, mon souci n'est pas d'avoir cette sélection. Mon souci de se précipiter et à jeter des fleurs. Moi, je pense que tous ces garçons ont encore beaucoup de travail à faire. Mais le point que je voulais faire surtout...
Qu'est-ce que veut dire jeter les fleurs?
Permets-moi, s'il te plaît. J'ai dit ceci. Je pense que ce qu'on doit surtout faire, c'est de s'assurer que tous ces joueurs qui viennent à l'équipe nationale passent par les A-primes, les U23, les U24. Parce que l'équipe nationale directe, pour quelqu'un qui a peut-être, qui montre des prouesses, Tu vois, c'est pour ça que je pense que cette sélection, c'était une manière d'encourager l'athlète. Mais qui a le niveau,
sauf que
de l'équipe nationale, je ne pense pas.
Si tu as le niveau, ce n'est pas seulement en passant par les sélections.
There are always exceptions, like Kylian Mbappé, who broke into France's national team.
Qui n'a pas joué
won the World Cup.
Extremely exceptional.
Non, c'est partout, Daniel. Ça se passe partout. Lorsque vous êtes un garçon qui démontre des qualités, on ne va pas forcément attendre que tu passes par les cadets, les minimes, les juniors. Voyez-vous. Donc, le petit Elliot n'a pas joué.
When he played for Cameroon, he just got into the national team. There are exceptions like that. But at the moment, guys, we're going to leave that and focus now on Mauritius. Earlier, we presented the team, but which good players are there? Let's look at this report by Walter Wilson, Nana, presenting the key players of the Dodos of Mauritius.
It's headed back, and a real chance still. Was there a handball?
From a cursory look across the African continent and the world, the Mauritius island does not have top flight or call them big names in terms of football players. Over the years, they are making efforts, and here they are, once more into the qualifiers of the World Cup 2026 in the US of A, Canada and Mexico. In the current team of coach Fidi Razouanaivo, that is in Douala, Cameroon, to challenge the Indomitable Lions this Friday, you'll find goalkeeper Kevin Jean-Louis.
Oh, good save! A really good save from Kevin Jean-Louis.
He has been with the Dodos of the Mauritius Island since 2009. He was born on June 27, 1989 and plays with Pamplemousse SC of the Mauritian Division 1 League. Kevin Jean-Louis has featured 59 times with the Dodos. In the defense compartment, you'll find Dylan Collard. He plies his trade with Maritimo in Portugal. Dylan Collard was born on April 16 in the year 2000 and has had 4 clubs with the Dodos. There is Captain Lindsay Rose, who plays professional football in Legia, Warsaw in Poland. He was born on February 8, 1992 and has featured 10 times with the national colors. In the midfield comes Adel Lange of CA Vitry in France. Observers of Mauritian football hold that he is at the center of the offensive strategy of coach Fidi Razouanaivo. Aged 26, Adel Lange has been invited 35 times in the ranks of the Dodos. Still in the midfield component of the Dodos, there is Jeremy Villeneuve, born on April 25, 1994, plays professional football with French side Critères Lusitanos and has been called up for the national team of the Mauritius Island 17 times. These players join the rest of the 22 brought to Cameroon by coach Fidi Razouanaivo to begin the search for a ticket to the USA, Canada and Mexico for the World Cup 2026.
And there's the goal.